Ecuador enters the 11th day of popular protest demanding an end to repression, the lifting of the state of emergency, and the end of the neoliberal policies enforced by Guillermo Lazo's government. Germany announced it will raise the alert level under the emergency gas plan to ensure supplies following the recent reduction of pipeline supplies from Russia. Afghanistan's government has appealed for more international aid as the country reels from a devastating 6.1 magnitude earthquake which killed at least 1,000 people. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Ecuador enters the 11th day of popular protests demanding an end to repression, the lifting of a state of emergency, and the end of neoliberal policies enforced by Guillermo Lazo's government. Demonstrators mobilized towards the main avenues in the north and center of Quito, trying to have the executive recognize the difficult economic and political situation that the country is going through and implemented measures for the solution of the multiple problems that affect the people. In this context, through a joint statement, social movements, indigenous farmers, and a black community reiterated their willingness to dialogue with the government, but without persistent conditions from the executive. The organizations reaffirmed the citizens' demand of the 10 points presented by the CONAIE through a permanent dialogue to face the country's difficulties. This Wednesday, sectors related to the Ecuadorian government carried out a mobilization in Quito to express their support to the policies implemented by President Guillermo Lazo and to ask for the end of the social protests. Later, the Cacerolazo, a pot banging was heard in some neighborhoods in the Ecuadorian capital, which has been partially paralyzed for the second consecutive day. Grenadians went to the polls this Thursday, to cast their vote in country's general elections. The polls open at 6 a.m. local time and will close at 5 a.m. with more than 80,000 citizens registered to vote. Incumbent Prime Minister Kit Mitchell of the ruling New National Party is hoping to be re-elected for the sixth term as Prime Minister. He is also seeking a third election victory in a role, having won all 15 consecutive in the 2013 and 2018 general elections. His opponent, Deacon Mitchell, is the political leader of the National Democratic Congress, who hopes to become Grenada's next prime minister. 41 candidates are contesting the election from 5 political parties, with 1 independent candidate. However, the NNP and the NDC are the main political parties in the race. On Thursday, Mexico ordered that facilities and achieved an Army File Number 1 be open to the Commission for Truth and Historical Clarification to review events occurred from 1965 to 1990. The occasion was marked with an official ceremony attended by Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. The victims are survivors of the so-called Dirty Word, one of the darkest chapters in the country's recent history, were also presented at the ceremony. Mexico's Human Rights Undersecretary Alejandro Encinas said that at a time of transformation, as it is the case now in Mexico, it is necessary to look history in the eye. Prominent social and political leaders like Armando Arceniega, Ezequiel Barrientos, and Hilda Flores were held at Military Field Number 1. In his speech, President López Obrador thanked Secretary of Defense Luis Encenios Sandoval from his loyalty and said that its opening the military achieved, we are turning the page on an era, paving the way for national reconciliation.
This is a highly emotionally charged ceremony, considering all the pain and suffering endured in this country during times of authoritarianism and repression. We need to close this dark chapter in our history for a new beginning, a new era which I would say has already begun.
On behalf of the victims and survivors, Micaela Cabañas Ayala, daughter of Lucio Cabañas Barrientos, spoke at the ceremony. She gave testimonies of the outrage and violations suffered by herself and her relatives at that time.
The military camp was considered the largest clandestine detention center in the country. And I want to tell you, this is where our ordeal began. When we arrived here, my mother was tortured, raped, and humiliated, but she defended me because she says that at night, soldiers came and grabbed me by the foot and put a gun to my head and said, "Tell us where Lucio is." But where would he be? They had already killed him. Where Lucio was, she could not say. I must also say that my mother was an adolescent, only 14 years old.
In Chile, workers of the state-owned company Codelco, the world's largest copper producer, began a national strike on Wednesday to protest against the closure of a melting plant. The Chilean Copper Workers Federation announced in a public statement that all Codelco operators were paralyzed following the government's announcement to close the Ventana melting plant located in the Valparaiso region. The government's decision was taken after multiple frequent episodes of contamination in the area. According to Bio Chile, 26 unions comprising approximately 40,000 workers are participating in the strike. Unions have described the closure as arbitrary and demand that the government invest $54 million to bring the plant up to the highest environmental standards.
I think this is being misunderstood. Nobody here is asking for a bonus. The only thing they're asking for is to preserve the job, and this is what is also bothering them. Because the truth is that we must have sincere words, honest words, with respect to the problem, and not distorted with unfounded accusations. I have not heard any worker asking for a bonus or anything like this. Here, what they're asking for is investment and not to close down.
That's exactly what it is. Historical. This strike is a success, but this word success, is a success of pain. It is a success of helplessness. It is a success of loss for the country. With 2 days of this strike, believe me, that
Gustavo Petro, Colombia's president-elect, and Francio Marquez, vice president-elect, will receive from the National Registers Office and the International Electoral Council the credentials certifying them as the country's new leaders. According to regulations from the Register's Office, the winning formula obtained 50.44% of the votes in runoff. The agency detailed that during the electoral activity, former candidates Rodolfo Hernandez and Marilyn Castillo from the League of Anti-Corruption Governors obtained 47.31% of the valid votes. It was previously known that the next head of state will designate the transition committee that will be in charge of the transition between the outgoing government and the incoming, which will take office in August 7 in the current year. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. Germany announced on Thursday it will raise the alert level under its emergency gas plan to ensure supply following the recent reduction of pipeline supplies from Russia. Economy Minister Robert Habeck announced the nation will move to stage 2 of its three-stage plans, meaning Europe's largest economy now sees a high risk of long-term gas supply shortages. Habeck said gas had become a scarce commodity and warned an extraordinary price rally would persist, and it will affect industrial production and become a major burden for many consumers. According to Germany's emergency gas plans, the alert level phase is triggered when there is a disruption of gas supplies or exceptionally high gas demand, which results in significant deterioration of the gas supply situation.
Gas is now a scarce commodity in Germany. I say that even though, or precisely because, the supply in Germany is currently guaranteed. The market is therefore in a position to procure the quantity needed to ensure security of supply in Germany and also to fill the storage facilities
The
moderately.
European Union is holding a summit in Belgium to discuss granting Ukraine the status of candidate member of the organization. European Council President Charles Michel said that the organization is at device momentum, but that he is confident Ukraine and Moldova will achieve the status of candidates for membership to the European Union. However, Albanian Prime Minister Adi Rama warned Ukrainians not to get their hopes up because Albania has been trying to join the EU for the past 9 years, while Northern Macedonia has been trying for 17 years. Thousands of railway workers in the United Kingdom are supporting the second day of a train strike in demand for better wages. This strike has already become the biggest since 1989, with a strong impact on users and the economy. The largest strike will take place this Saturday and have been called by the National Union of Rail, Maritime and Transport Workers after negotiations with the public infrastructure network and private operators fail. Around 40,000 workers have paralyzed the United Kingdom Rail's network, forcing many citizens to opt for other means of transport, such as buses or cabs, while others have decided to work from home. Malaysian officials launched the tunneling phase as a massive China rail project on Thursday that will see a railway linking the country's east and west coast and the Southeast Asian nations peninsula. The 665 kilometers East Coast Rail Link is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, aimed at providing Beijing's link with countries across the world by via infrastructure. A giant rail link structured with a cutter that had nearly 9 meters high will be used by contractors to board through more than 16 kilometers of dirt and rock near Gandin, central Malaysia. The Malaysian unit of the China Communication Construction Company was contracted to build the project, which is expected to be completed by the end of 2026. Once completed, it will ferry passengers and free pass 20 stations across four Malaysian states, from country's main shipping hub of Port Klang to near the country's northeast border with Thailand. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived in Tehran to hold talks with Iranian foreign officials, including President Ibrahim Raisi, on issues of mutual interest. Maria Zakharova, a spokeswoman of the Russian Foreign Ministry, stressed that a joint comprehensive plan of action on Iran's nuclear plan, the situation in Ukraine, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, and the region surrounding the Caspian Sea are just a few of the urgent global issues that Paris discussed. On May, Moscow and Iran, which are both under Western sanctions and sit on some of the world's largest oil and gas reserves, discussed the exchange supplies of oil and gas as well as setting up a logistic hub. Rwandan President Paul Kagame, along with World Health Organization Director Tedros Ghebreyesus Adhanom and other high government officials, inaugurated start of construction of BioNTech messenger's RNA vaccine production facilities in the country capital, Kigali. According to BioNTech, the facility has a target for the first set of manufacturing tools to be delivered to the site by the end of this year. The facility will be initially equipped with 2 modular shipping containers that are equipped for mRNA productions. The hub will also have equipment to manufacture and range of mRNA-based vaccines targeted to the needs of African Union member states, which could include the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine and BioNTech's investigational malaria and tuberculosis vaccines, if the vaccines are approved or authorized by regulatory authorities. And we have more news coming up after this final short break, so don't go away. Afghanistan's government has appealed for more international aid as the country's ruled for a devastating 6.1 magnitude earthquake, which killed at least 1,000 people and left international organizations scrambling to provide emergency shelters and food to remote regions. More than 3,000 homes were destroyed as a result of the earthquake, which struck near the city of Kaz, around 100 miles southeast of the capital, Kabul. Rescue efforts have been hampered as communications networks are badly hit in the devastation. People have been digging through rubble with their hands in the search for survivors. As Health Minister spokesperson said, around 1,000 people had been rescued by Tuesday morning, but returned in place for international relief. As the country lacks insufficient resources, earthquakes tend to cause serious damage in Afghanistan, where the dwellings are unsustainable or properly built. We bring you updated information from Guatemala, a Central American nation badly hit by the heavy rains for some weeks now. The country's Congress recently voted to extend the current state of calamity. According to the National Coordination for Disaster Reduction, there are more than 1,000 people affected by the torrential rains, and more than 23 dead and 4 missing, and another 8,000 are at risk in the process of evacuation. In the face of such a scenario, President Alberto Gamatei requested the parliament to approve a decree to extend the state of calamity. The request was discussed amid heavy tensions. Some parliamentarians point out a budget extension could be used to keep running the country's city. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un opened a meeting on senior military officials to discuss national defense policies and continuing armed buildup following a series of ballistic missiles tests this year that have caused tensions with Washington and Seoul. North Korean leader presided over the meeting of the ruling Workers' Party Central Military Commission that began on Tuesday to review differences were during the first half of 2022 and confirm crucial and urgent tasks to expand military capabilities and implement key defense policies. The members also discussed progress in weapons development and plans to deploy some of the systems that have been tested in recent months, including upper-pertinent hypersonic missile, Long Range cruise missiles, and the country's newest intercontinental ballistic missile. United States President Joe Biden called on the U.S. Congress to approve a 3-month suspension of the federal gas tax to help combat record price at the pump. During a statement at the White House, the head of state said that in the last 2 weeks, the prices of crude oil has fell by more than $10 per barrel, explaining this normally will reduce prices at a gas station by about 25 cents per gallon, but some gas stations have only reduced them by a few cents. The president's plans will temporarily waive the 18 cents per gallon gas tax and the 24 cents per gallon diesel tax imposed by the federal government to finance, among other things, highway maintenance. European Union lawmakers on Thursday voted in favor of granting Ukraine candidate status to join the 27-nation bloc, first said, in a long and unpredictable journey towards full membership that could take years to achieve. Members of Parliament endorsed Ukraine's request hours before the regional bloc started voting to pass a resolution The call EU head of states and governments to move and live up to their historical responsibility. Making Ukraine a contender now seems to be a done deal after leaders were initially divided on how fast they could move to embrace it, bid that was launched only a few days after Russia began its military operation on February 24th. The vote also considered a vote in favor of the candidacy of the republics of Moldova and Georgia. teleSUR expanded signal with new satellite parameters, and see more than ever that will connect to us, and our services are being heard all around the globe. These parameters are in place since June 1st and in Latin America and the Caribbean, both in English and Spanish, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signal in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. This new multi-platform continue providing trustful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative on our faithfulness to our audience. And with that story, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For teleSUR English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.